when we would sit here for a few years and just absorbing in Gaura-Gadadhara, then it's like the experience when one stands at the shore of the ocean, and then sometimes the wind brings a little breeze and little drops dew from the ocean, and we make like this. And we're a little salty here. We get a little taste of the ocean. But what is this few drops of dew in comparison to the ocean? So this is just the field where we're entering. Because the most cruel thing in this world is satiation. Because it's extremely unnatural for the soul. Whenever entering a field, and because it's limited, we come like to an end, and it's not really going further. And this is extreme painful experience. But Harikatha is always that experience. Just a little thing from the ocean is coming, we get a taste. And even these little drops of dew have the power to inundate our worldly existence. It's like it will drown in this little drop. That's why in the very beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, it's very interesting how much importance is given to Harikatha. In the assembly of the sages in Naimisharanya, Sutta Goswami tells them, Dharma Svanustita Pungsam. Oh dear brothers, sisters, companions on the way, can you feel your Dharma? Can you feel your calling? Svanushtita, for those who have taken a body. There is one Dharma, Pungsang, especially a human body. Vishvakshena Kathasura. Just dedicate in the beginning attention, time, and then pran. Then the whole life airs. Dedicate Vishvakshena Kathasura to the Katha of Krishna, of Radha and Krishna. And then he feels like, oh, not badayet yatiratim. Really, this would be the way of Rati, to awaken this extreme burning love. Sometimes we celebrate Arati. So means Avana, means taking birth, means arising, Rati. This extreme burning, loving tendency for which the soul is made for. But for that it has to come in contact with its original Dharma. So then he says, Dharma notpadayet yatiratim. Please, please. You can awaken Rati by this. And if you don't awaken this Rati, like what? Shrama. Not padayet yatiratim, if it's not about this Rati. Shrama eva hi kevalam. This is a very interesting word. We are in an ashram. And many define it because Shrama means useless work. So much like turning in the circle. Sometimes we get a taste of that. This is Shrama. And ashrama, many persons think, oh, this is the place. Nothing, not doing anything, entering passivity. This is not the meaning. But it's not a work that is just circling on the temporary field. Ashrama. So but Shrama. And Sutta Goswami says, if this extreme loving tendency is not awakened, Shrama eva hi kevalam, you can be sure, 100%, it's only Shrama. What do you do? So we embrace this, and it's a very exciting prospect that we can continue our life and such a dedication. Because if we would sit a year, then it would be only the drop, this little drop, touching our lips. But an ocean is waiting still. And I'm 100% sure if we arrange our life like this, a mystery will even happen. Because the mind may have some excuse, but how can I maintain? How can I live? Then really comes this wonderful promise that Krishna is like holding the hands of the soul, taking and looking at in the eyes of the soul, and with tears in the eyes says, Yoga Kshemam Vahamyaham. You can be sure the rest is my duty. So it's just, I think this is the context when we hear Harikatha. This is not a little option, a little cream on the cake of our life, little decoration, but really it's like, it's an invitation to a change, to make it our life. So it's like, I always love it. The sadhus in Vrindavan, they tell this. There was like an arranged marriage somewhere in a village. But the family of the daughter, they asked, is he good? No, because they don't want to arrange the daughter somewhere. Is he good? I said, yeah, he's wonderful. Just what? Just sometimes he's chewing fennel seeds. But this is not a bad thing. It's just fennel seeds. Yeah, but he's only doing this that one doesn't smell the smoke. This means he smokes? No, not really. This is only when he drank too much. No, not really. This was only when his thievery was not really successful. Why is he thief? It's like, slowly entering, just fennel season. Let's quickly go. I think it's a nice retreat in the mountain, and it's some harikatha, and surely, nice prasad and thing. But this harikatha is just like the final scene, just a little harikatha. So slowly it reveals a bigger effect. So this is, and we don't have to put in our stress. Oh, what I have to do? No. It's the path of fascination. But just Sutta Goswami gives this, and there's this verse at the very beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, like an invitation on the path of fascination. Can you feel? This would be the Dharma. This would be the reason for your incarnation. This is the reason for your taking birth. So, nicht im Schweiße des Angesichts, not just running around, sweating for a fight of existence. It's a different view. And spiritual life is not having some nice times that the real things of life can be endured a little more easy, but it's a different change. It's a deep change of perspective. So we are ready now for another drop from the taste of the eternal ocean of Gaura-Gadadhara rasa.
Ras Niryas Purikashvaran. And then that's the mudra. That's the mudra. And good morning, all. Welcome. We can never be welcomed enough into an endless adventure. So I really appreciate Krishna Chandra Prabhu's introductory, quote unquote, welcoming words as we were talking there. The introduction means to lead into, to be led into, and there's no end to how much we can be led into. So the welcoming is endless to a new deep access of the field. So today we are having our final session, quote unquote final, many quotation marks in between. I mean, by this point, if you have been here present enough, you all realize that there's no final session. So in one sense, final only. In the most secondary possible way, the final session. The most substantial possible way, we're just warming up. Again, we are just sprinkled by some dew drops. The ocean still waits, and the ocean has no bottom. To the point that Bhagavan himself is swimming, exploring those depths, in this case in Nitya Navadvīpa, and realizing this ocean is endless. So it's only a trailer, an appetizer of the big feast, the big meal. Like Jesus in the Bible will depict heaven as a banquet, like a big feast. So we're having appetizers here and there of that big feast that is never ending. And no wonder, as we said yesterday, in Gaura-līlā there is so much banquets, so much prasad, feast, akanta, up to the neck, which is another way of speaking how grace can fill you up and fulfill you. Fulfill you means fill you fully. And at the same time, paradoxically, as you say, there is no satiation. Thank God. This famous verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhakti Parushanubhava Viraktir, second line, Traikaika Kala, what is that? Okay, Prapadya Manas Chatasnatasyus Tushti Pusti Kshuda Alpayo Nugasam. That's where I want to go. Where it says that Tushti Pushti, dangerous word. What Krishna is saying now, in the same way that someone who is hungry is eating, and by eating, three things happen simultaneously. You get strength of the food, you get taste of the food, and your hunger disappears with every single morsel. So in the same way, by practicing bhakti, these different things happen. There's some relishment, some strength and inspiration, and some getting rid of an artist, if you will. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments on that verse saying, yeah, the analogy is nice, but there's one problem with the word tushti. Because it says that when you eat, there's a point that you find satisfaction. Like when you're having prasad, at one point they keep passing with the bowls, and you will have to invoke this mudra, put it on the plate like tushti. I'm satisfied. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur said, but there's no final satisfaction in bhakti. There's no final, I'm filled up to the neck. I cannot get more. So that's what gives us hope. Entering a paradoxical eternal land of sacred dissatisfaction, which is what allows for an ongoing growth and progress and evolution in the experience of love. If not, heaven is a dead end, so to say. There's a rooftop. So as we like to say, perfection is not a fixed maximum. When we say perfection, we have to attain perfection. Generally, we think it's a fixed maximum. Once I'm there, I'm done. And now what? Eternal resting or eternal nothing. And heaven starts to resemble hell, if you will. No more progress, no more surprise, no more wonder, no more chamatkar. So Harikatha has the opposite nature, if you will, of tushti. We're quoting is the Tavakatamritam Tapta Jivana. It's creating its own thirst, its own sacred poison. That's why at the end of the Gita, Krishna tells to Arjuna, Ashishana. After speaking the whole Gita, he says, Arjuna, now contemplate what I've said, Ashishana, endlessly. No, Shesha means end. Ashesha means without end. So what I've just shared with you, go back to that endlessly. No. Perpetually. There's always something new. So today we pray to be sprinkled by one dew drop of endlessly evergreen, ever fresh grace by Śrī Gaurā-Gadadhara. And in our quote-unquote final session of the Gadādhara Saptaha, we want to speak about the adoration of Gaura-Gadadhara, what it means to adore Gaura-Gadadhara. So far we have been speaking about Gadādhara Paṇḍita's life in Navadvīpa, in Jagannath Puri, his ontological position, service disposition. Our last session we were exploring the meaning of Gadādhara Paṇḍita's worshipping Tota Gopinath and how it all connected with Mahāprabhu, relishing Radha Bhav in the Gambhira, Gadādhara Paṇḍita's last days. So today, a few words about the bhajan, the adoration of Gaura-Gadadhara, especially in connection, I'd like to make that connection. I cannot but do it. In connection to Srila Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura, who is a very beloved figure for all of us, who is, in one sense, the father of our family, Bhaktivinoda Parivar, our holy ancestor. As we said the other day, his Tirobhav is falling on the same day as Gadādhara Paṇḍita, so these two are very aligned figures, Gaura Shakti Swarupaya, Rupanuga Varayate. His Ishta Devata was Gaura-Gadadhara, that we can have darshan of them in Godrum. Even though he officially received initiation in the Nityananda Parivar, his inclination was very deep, toward Gaura-Gadadhara. At the same time, loving Nitai, as we said the other day, loving someone, real love is loving in all directions, right? It's not like I love you so much and therefore I hate that guy over there. No, real love is loving in every possible direction. So if you love one, you love everyone. So Gaura-Gadadhara, in the words of Srila Siddhar Maharaj, are the private bhajan chamber of Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura. It's an interesting way of expressing it. Gaura-Gadadhara is the private bhajan chamber of Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura. Something very deep, very confidential, very mysterious, as we say in our first session, Rahasya Mai, something full with mysteries, full with secrets. And we shared these days a few connections between Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura and Gaura-Gadadhara and their service disposition. You may remember this interesting statement of Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura about, I want to leave my body at Kurukshetra. Remember? And all that it entailed in terms of his willingness to enter that point with the necessity of his Swamini was at a very intense degree, and very similarly how Śrī Gadādhara is fully identified with his prananath, his her prananath Krishna as Gaur in that moment of intense degree, and being willing to empty his heart for Mahaprabhu's fulfillment, and suddenly find out my heart is never emptying. The more I empty my heart, the more filled it becomes, the more I can offer that back in service. So Srila Siddhar Maharaj will give that beautiful idea. The more we identify with the necessity of service, the higher the remuneration. Which is another way of saying the more you empty your heart in seva, the more that same heart is being filled again. And the more then you take that remuneration, not for you, but render that in service again, only to find, oh, now the storehouse is becoming bigger and bigger. Every time I empty the storehouse, somehow the storehouse keeps expanding. And I'm empty the storehouse in service again, it keeps expanding. That's the ongoing spiral, ever expanding paradox. So everyone in the Leela is identified that way. The Priyanarma Sakas are very identified to serving Krishna in his hour of greatest need. Manjari is identified of serving Śrī Rādhā in her hour of greatest need. Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura, as we mentioned. And Mahaprabhu is Krishna in his most, volcanic moment, as Srila Siddhar Maharaj will say, and also in his most vulnerable moment. And there is no contradiction here. Krishna as very vulnerable, as Mahaprabhu, vulnerable in the sense of in a great need that needs to be fulfilled. It's urgent. It's not optional. It's non-negotiable. We'll say Gaura-līlā is non-negotiable. It's like, hey, there can be a Gaura-līlā or there can be not a Gaura-līlā. No. It has to. I mean, Krishna himself, the first one, say, there has to. I need it. So that vulnerability, that moment of need creates, when that's fulfilled, paradoxically, this volcanic expression of the Absolute. And Gadādhara Paṇḍita is there facilitating the golden volcano of divine love to erupt. Gadādhara Paṇḍita is pouring the lava. The golden volcano is erupting. Somehow we are sprinkled at one lava dew drop. Let's keep it gentle. Sprinkled with lava can be a little intense, but still we can. In the beginning we can admire the erupting volcano. How beautiful. Shall I dare to get closer? I don't know. So we are gradually trying to cultivate our faculties to become volcano-like. Like people, there are people living in the planets, in the sun planets, but they have a body according to that. They're a fiery body. Here our body is more earth-like. We are on planet Earth. Sun is planet fire. So their bodies are more fire-like, and they can bear the fire there because they became fire-like. Some form of tadatmya. And the iron bar became fire-like. So in the same way, to approach the volcanic reality of Sri Mahaprabhu, Gaura-līlā, Gaura-Gadadhara, we are gradually cultivating this tadatmya, this becoming volcano-like, lava-like, fire-like. Swaha. That's the meaning of swaha. It's not just let's like try to fit in the grain of rice into the small square, like if you're playing basketball or something with a grain of rice. Swaha means enter the fire and become fire-like. So Gadādhara Paṇḍita is leading the way in Gaura-līlā. And I like to share with you in this connection something interesting, which again, it's all part of the invitation, how we are inviting to adore Gaura-Gadadhara, because this doesn't mean just having Gaura-Gadadhara in your altar as a deity officially, though that's a beautiful possibility, but how to adore what they represent. On something that may appear somehow disconnected, but last year I remember I was with Buddha Prabhu Some of you know him. We come with him often from France, from Dijon.
We miss him here.
We miss him here, Uda. If you're watching this now, we're missing you. Can tolerate only 1 year you're not coming. Next year we want you here. So we were doing some before arriving to Dijon. He took me. We were on a camper van and we were going to a few sacred places of Christian saints along the way in France. Had a beautiful few days, and we went to a particular church, and there were like at the entrance one bowl with different small pieces of paper. So the idea was like you pick your piece of paper and there will be some piece of wisdom for you there, some quote from someone, from a saint. So Toda Prabhu invited me to pick my piece. So I picked the piece and there's a quote. I have it here just in case I don't want to forget it. From one Christian saint called Saint John Mary Vianney. Maybe I'm pronouncing her word terribly bad. Not that much famous in Christianity, but it was a quote that I needed to read, basically. So the quote say like this. I didn't fasten my seatbelt before reading it. It says like, "You are in a kind of martyrdom. But what joy for us to be in some way martyrs of charity." How is the quote? Oh, wow. Yeah. What to do with that? Please. Translation in German.
Yeah.
I read and you translate. You are in a kind of martyrdom. But what joy for us to be in some way martyrs of charity.
Der Liebe, Charity ist eigentlich die christliche Art der Nächstenliebe zu sein.
So anyhow, I was in. I will now just. Of course, after reading that, I was curious. I mean, I had my idea of what it meant, and I felt, wow, I can relate to that in certain ways. There's a message for me there. Thank you. But we inquired about, okay, what's the meaning of this martyr of charity phrase mean? So I have a few here from the time that we did the research. It says, a martyr of charity is someone who lays down their life, not necessarily by seeking death, but by fully spending themselves in the service of others out of love. There are a few other definitions. Someone who puts love into action to the point of radical self-giving. Martyr of charity. Or someone who accepts personal cost, suffering, or even death as a consequence of that love. Someone who is willing to pay it all. And one last definition that came was someone who is moved by compassion rather than by a desire for recognition, heroism, or self-sacrifice for its own sake. So again, I cannot but think of Gadādhara Paṇḍita as the epitome of a mass martyr of charity. And for all of us, Gadādhara Paṇḍita in one way is the role model to follow in this martyrdom. So this is the invitation for those who would like to align their hearts with Gadādhara Paṇḍita to become martyrs of charity themselves, to be willing to, radical self-giving, radical compassion, willingness to pay any price in the context of love. What's that? This expression, martyr or charity, inspiring you, Krishna?
Martyrdom, how it is called? Martyrdom?
Martyrdom.
Martyrdom, yeah.
Those who are martyrs engage in
Martyrdom.
martyrdom.
Yeah. It's like, it's the place of no return. So, and I think any spiritual practice has to enter this. You mentioned the phrase, not that we are morbid, that we somehow just want to die. Of course, we appreciate every moment, but still I feel myself like being pushed in places like of no return. The deepest charity I feel is just offer the consciousness and attention, because this is the most precious thing I have, to the feet of Srimati Radhika. So this is like the moment, and if this is not done, I feel because this is the source of love. You said in the beginning, love, it's at home at one place, and then from there it spreads like everywhere. It cannot be just selective. So I think this is for me like the deepest charity is that.
Thank you.
Place of no turning
Right.
back.
Read the book again once.
I could read what?
The quote you just read.
The quote? Yes, we can. You are, I mean, I read the paper, but it's a universal invitation, especially speaking about Gadādhara Paṇḍita. You are in a kind of martyrdom, but what joy for us to be in some way martyrs of charity. So yeah, only the martyr part could sound a little dreadful, just about some form of dying, but martyrs of charity, and charity entails giving, loving, no? Die to live. The death that happens in the context of loving, no? Because martyrdom entails some form of death that I need to go through in the context of charity. No? Here we have for a moment, is the symbol of our kata now, martyrs of charity. No? I need to die to some version of me to be born to a new version of me. I need to shed skin. No? This was a symbol of what Gaura-līlā is about, right? Mahāprabhu is willing, Krishna is willing to shed his, you say, Nilam Bodhi Tate. No? The blue ocean is left here on this side of this shore. On the other side, golden skin, blue skin left behind. So to say, the willingness to die to live. As Srila Siddhar Maharaj will love to quote this line from Hegel. And die to live doesn't happen only once. It's ongoing deaths for ongoing rebirths, even in eternity. Even if you are fully participating in the Lila, every time Krishna plays the flute, he's inviting Radha, as you say the other day, to a new level of death, to a new level of sannyas, to a new level of leaving everything behind and entering to a new level of dedication. There's no limit to that. So this shed skin can be a powerful symbol. I know many friends who have a shed skin in their altar. Actually, when you found this the other day, I was like, oh, I was about to catch, and Bhaktirasa interestingly told me, no, I already found a shed skin from our travels to Italy, so we have that one. Okay, great. So I allowed, I think it was Radha Kinkari who took the shed skin. So, okay, I allow her to have her shed skin. So we won't be having a fight for that. But it was in the center of the circle, right? So that's a powerful symbol for. Huh?
It's also the total self-abnegation that Jesus speaks about in the book. He says something like that, doesn't he? Self-abnegation. Verleugnung dich selbst.
Selbstverleugnung.
What he means, right? To leave behind your old self.
Yeah. Yes, Srila Siddhar Maharaj, I guess we say the other day, he will speak about self-sacrifice. in that connection. But then he will say, and we all need to go through that to some degree, sustainable, in a healthy way, nobody going crazy in the context of that, and eventually reach a point of self-forgetfulness in divine love. So it doesn't even feel like sacrifice anymore.
That's why it's joy.
That's why it's joy. It's
Okay.
self-forgetfulness in divine love. Like when, I don't know, again, the gopis hear Krishna's flute, they are not thinking, oh, now I have to leave behind. They're just like, no. Sanatana Goswami comments in Brihad Bhagavatam to one verse in the Bhagavatam that depicts how the gopis run after the flute call. And it seems that they are leaving behind home, family, that they have forgotten about those things when hearing the flute call. And he comments, what to speak of forgetting about them? They have forgotten themselves. So what I think about forgetting other things related to themselves? They've forgotten themselves. Self-forgetfulness in divine love.
Sometimes you hear of like a building on fire and someone just runs in to save a child.
Without thinking.
Just without thinking.
I
That's
will-
all. They just
Yeah. Martyr of charity. So here's Gadādhara Paṇḍita entering into the fire of Mahāprabhu's desire to taste Radha Bhav. There's no second thought. Let's go there. We have to do something with that fire. So anyhow, we're all invited to become martyrs of charity, properly understood, be willing to embrace whatever corresponding death is awaiting us at this precise moment in our journey, so we can gain the corresponding rebirth that is waiting for us today, July 26th. So this will be uploaded 27th, but anyhow, every day a new death, every day a new life, basically. No? Amrita, as I like to say, you use the word Amrita, you have the magazine Amrita, which also can mean immortality, among other things, of course, nectar, sweetness, sweet immortality. But the word Amrita includes the word Mritya, which is death. So if you want immortality, Amrita, you have to go through some form of Mrita, to some form of death, internal, dying before you die, as the Sufis will say, die before you die, all the times you need. And when you do so, there's no more death. So that's a little bit the spirit where we are invited to embrace, to, how to say, to address Gaura-Gadadhara in a coherent way, in a way that is fitting to their own reality, to their own willingness to give in love to each other. So to create a little bit of a contrast here now, I'd like to bring another point in which we, in our particular line at least, do not agree that much. And which somehow, for some reasons, we feel it gets in the way of this spirit of being a martyr of charity. And I will try to do it in a careful way without sounding like I'm stigmatizing a group or putting them in the cross and calling them this or that, because I don't feel like that. And this is a concept called Gaur-Nagar Bad. No? Some of you may be familiar with that. What's the meaning of that mantra?
Wonderful.
Again, not in any fanatical way. I'll try even to make my presentation balanced to the point of sharing. There could be a possibility for that, though it may not be our cup of tea. At least it's not in my menu, but it may be in someone else's menu. So, are you all familiar with what Gaur-Nagar means? If not, brief introduction. So, Gaur-Nagar means it's a particular approach to Gaura-līlā, to Mahāprabhu, to Gaura-Gadadhara, mostly influenced by associates of Mahāprabhu at the time and their works like Lochandas Thakur, Narahari Sarkar Thakur, and people from that line, from a place in Bengal called Śrī Rādhā, which is basically where this group reside, if you will, though there are representatives in other places, and we know some of them. You're even friends with some of them. Imagine. We're not that bad, guys. Come on. So their aspiration is basically to relate to Mahāprabhu in overt romantic mode, as you will try to relate to Krishna as a gopi, and having direct romantic interaction with him. The aspiration or goal is to establish that type of connection with Mahaprabhu in Gaura-līlā, in eternal Gaura-līlā. And there are different varieties of that. I won't enter into the details of that. Some will speak of becoming a manjari of Vishnu Priya and having still direct interaction with Mahaprabhu. And speaking of the connection between Gaura-Gadadhara as being like that of Radha and Krishna, as it happens in Braja-līlā, in every sense of the term, and so on and so on, so forth. And there are some statements, of course, you can find in, for example, in scripture about some people or some lady from Navadvīpa expressing attraction to Mahaprabhu, which is fine. I mean, he's very attractive, Gaur Sundar. And an important point that we will make, again, not trying to fully cancel, but we have our points of view. Says, okay, Mahaprabhu received those prayers, but he never, in the Leelas, we know it, he never reciprocated those prayers. Overtly, that we know of him. He never overtly engaged in romantic mood. And of course, according to the Goswamis, we find nothing about that. According to the writings of Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura, we don't find that. Even we find that Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura will align with one list of what's called Apasampradaya, written by someone else, Totaram Thakur, I think, Gaur-nagars. In that list, and Chaitanya Bhagavata and Chaitanya Charitamrita, we find some strong verses from both authors about please do not relate to Mahaprabhu as a nagar. Nagar means like a lover, basically like an enjoyer in that context. So for us, the main thing here is Anukul Bhav. We are talking here about adoration of Gaura-Gadadhara. So how to approach Gaura-Gadadhara for us is there is a particular mood therein. There is a particular necessity that Mahaprabhu has, at least according to what the Goswamis teach, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, etc. Mahaprabhu has this need to become a gopi, if you will, to become the gopi. So if I go to him expecting him to be, it's like reminding him that he's actually Krishna, is kind of getting in the way of his main project, so to say. So this is some, I remember always one word from Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj, he will say, don't disturb the mood of Gaur. And you can imagine him saying that like shouting, right? He was his style of speaking sometimes, don't disturb the mood of Gaur.
By just putting a peacock feather.
Sorry?
By just putting a peacock feather on it.
Yeah, because sometimes in some place you may see that they put a peacock feather on Mahaprabhu. Like you can make a tattva point saying, okay, Mahaprabhu is Krishna, but that can be an udipan for disturbance in the sense of, again, reminding him, hey, you're Krishna. And remember, we mentioned when he went to Vrindavan, the atmosphere of Vrindavan reminded him somehow he had to leave Vrindavan. That's why he didn't take Gadadhar to Vrindavan. So we can see many sections this concerted effort of Mahaprabhu, because it takes effort to enter into Radha Bhav. I mean, he has Purusha Bhav as Krishna. He's Parama Purusha, he's Purushotam. He has to make a great effort to leave aside Purusha Bhav and enter into Prakriti Bhav. Not only Prakriti, Para Prakriti Bhav. So it's an effort. So we try to be very careful about not getting in the way of that effort and bringing elements that may mess the project, so to say. You're raising your hand.
Just to clarify one thing, because you mentioned that the ones, like subscribing to that Nagari Bhav think that Gaura and Gadādhara have a conjugal relationship, but there's no notion of homosexuality in that. I think it's just important to mention that, to clarify that, because they think more that Gadādhara also like has a secret female form in which through which he can actually have that conjugal relationship.
Yeah. Thank you for the clarification. And also just to add to that, another footnote is that those who align with this view, at least some of them, in my conversation with them, were like, not only Gadādhara has a secret female form, but all the associates of Mahaprabhu have a secret female form through which they associate with Mahaprabhu, and that Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, Rupa Damodara, everyone. No? I mean, personal conversation by Swami Padmanabha with someone from the line.
So what does it mean, a secret female form? Not their mandali form?
No.
No, in Gaura-līlā, in Gaura-līlā. So you have in Gaura-līlā, you have Rupa, Goswami or Rupa, but apart from that overtly male form, where there is no romantic interaction at all, they will speak about the secret female form that every associate has, and they all relate to Mahaprabhu as a Nagar. So to me, it feels too much. Yes.
But this is a Nagari
Yeah. Yeah.
point and not
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm not making that point myself. No. Yeah. Sorry for the confusion.
And it's why it says a secret conversation between you and
Someone from the Nagari line, basically. Yeah, and I will say, but that's nowhere, and that doesn't make sense. No, that's and the argument will be, no, this is very secret and very confidential, and nobody knows about it except us. And it's like, okay. So that
regarding like disturbing mood, we usually worship Mahaprabhu in Navadvīpa, like not his sannyas form.
Mm-hmm.
But in Navadvīpa, he does like, there's some like pastimes like Mahaprakash-līlā where he shows himself in different forms of Krishna.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So is it really disturbing then if you put like a peacock feather or something? Because in Navadvīpa there are.
Mm-hmm. I'm going there in a minute. Yeah? 5 minutes? Okay? Can you tolerate that? Because sometimes the questions can be pressing. No, I was going to mention that, of course, the main reason I will say we do not fully subscribe to this doctrine is that we believe that really, in other forms, Bhagavan is relishing different bhavs. And again, in Mahaprabhu is a complex theological figure. I'm not denying that. And at times, as it's in the Mahaprakash, or other times, he's for moments showing Krishna bhav, Baladev bhav, Varaha bhav, Nrsimhadev bhav. So it's complex. But overtly, from many things that we've been sharing, it's clear that his main purpose to appear as Mahaprabhu for Gaura-līlā is to relish Radha bhav, which we don't find in any other Lila. No? God wanting to relish the heart of the goddess, if you will, to that degree of intensity. So in that sense, we think Gaur-Nagar bhav is kind of getting a little bit in the way when it becomes so overtly insisting in that direction, as it does in their line. It's like it's all about this, basically. No? So it will be like kind of a form, without criticizing, hopefully, of Arda Kukurtinyaya. Arda Kukurtinyaya is the half-hand logic. In the sense, okay, I take Mahaprabhu as a Nagar, but totally dismiss his pursuit for Radha bhav, which is like, wow, that's the main thing all over in his life and biography. So you cannot just like, no, I just want him as a Nagar. I mean, I'm not saying it's not possible, and we will go there in a minute, but the degree to which that is emphasized among some practitioners in that line tends to, overshadow considerably this main purpose. Mm-hmm. Also, some arguments that one could make is, again, and to make the point that his main purpose in Gaura-līlā is to taste Radha bhav, is if his main purpose will be to be a Nagar, his hue will change. Like it happened in Vrindavan, and that's why he left Vrindavan. It's like, I'm returning Krishna. Because every mood, internal mood, the one religious, has a corresponding color. No? So Mahaprabhu has a certain color externally because that speaks about what he's relishing internally, and his color is golden. His color is not sham. That corresponds with another mood. And when that starts to happen, that becomes a problem for Mahaprabhu in Gaura-līlā. He tries to do accordingly, right? Also, some argument that sometimes is given. I'm bringing a few arguments, and then we try to harmonize, hopefully. Is that okay? Mahaprabhu, actually, all this Nagar experience with Mahaprabhu happened in Navadvīpa. And when he went to Puri on earth, right? They will say in Puri he became a sannyas, and those of us who follow the Goswamis never met Mahaprabhu in Navadvīpa. So they do not have an experience of that Nagar Bhav Lila, so they are not speaking about that. But actually it happened in Navadvip. But we will say, as we were talking yesterday, someone like Swarup Damodar. He was in the Navadvip Lila, he was in Puri Lila, and he never spoke about that, and he glorified Gadadhar from a non-Gaur-Nagar place, so to say, right? He wrote Radha Bhava Duties Valitam Naomi Krishna Swarupam. That verse was written by Swarup Damodar, actually. Mahāprabhu is Krishna realizing Radha Bhava. That's the main thing that's going on here. Now the not counter argument, but just to, how to say, something with the field. Level the field. Thank you. That, I don't know, it's mentioned in different books, like Obiel Kapoor's books on Mahāprabhu and his associates. He will make this point, like Mahāprabhu, he acknowledged, okay, Mahāprabhu is tasting Radha Bhav, and that's overtly the main purpose, but sometimes he will be lost in Krishna Bhav. So he will say, well, those who follow Gaur Nagar are relating to that Gaur Krishna, in the mood of Krishna. And there's some space for that to happen. But still interaction is internal, he will say, no? Though the Gaur Nagars may say something else, no? That parallel secret female form for everyone. But he will say the interaction will be internal with the Gaur Krishna in Krishna Bhav, and still the main purpose is to taste Radha Bhav. As it's mentioned in almost every biography of Mahāprabhu. Sorry if it got a little technical. I wanted just to touch upon that for a moment. Somehow creating some contrast. So I personally, though in the past I was a little bit more like, this is an Apa Sampradaya, they're total deviant, this cannot happen. I'm like, okay, there's place for that, but that's not in the line of the Goswamis, and that's not mentioned there, and that's not in my menu and in my cup of tea, because I think it's really downplaying the main purpose of Gaur-Līlā. No question, Chandra. How do you feel about it today?
I just see, if Gaurāṅga would be in that mood, there wouldn't be a need of Gaur-Līlā, because the atmosphere in Braj is so perfect to relish Shringa Rasa. It's just an extreme, wonderful, beautiful atmosphere. So there wouldn't be any need. So it's not an adventurous journey. It would be actually like a degradation from the atmosphere of Vrindavan.
The emotion.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's why for us the meaning of Gaur-Līlā is exactly this extra thing, so to say, the
promotion.
Yeah. Rida is raising his hand.
Also, if we're being realistic, this kind of, I mean, theologically true or not, isn't it like an open door to all kinds of crazy behaviors? And, you know, when people start indulging in this kind of theories, it's a question to the point. But I was thinking, like, as soon as we start going for these kind of theories, like, it spreads, can go in many, many crazy directions.
Well, it can and it has.
For me, it's like the first thing I think about.
Yeah.
I think about humans in general.
Yeah. And that's why at this time there was this list of what's called sometimes Apa Sampradaya, or lineages that somehow deviate, at least in the consideration of those who make that list, from the original teaching. And at that time of Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura, we will speak about 11. By then, Srila Maharaj will speak about, but this time we have like hundreds and thousands. And
we already know how much Krishna-lila has been abused in history, right? By unscrupulous people. So
and as I like to say, just not to become like too like, oh, the Apa Sampradayas, and we have to battle against them, and we are not an Apa Sampradaya. But if you think in some weird way, or you feel in some weird way, you're already Apa Sampradayic. No? Even though you are officially aligned and initiated into a bona fide line, you can misrepresent that in a totally Apa Sampradayic way by things you say or how you act, interact, and think. Just to, again, level the field. But yeah, I agree that, and actually, without the need of entering into names, but there's one considerably well-known representative of this particular contemporary representative of this line of thought, and he was asked, and I won't, again, no need to go into details because it's not about names, but okay, what did your guru, did he agree with that? And he said, no, actually, if my guru will know about that, he will be turning on his grave.
We were there together. Vangami.
Okay.
Turning his what?
Turning into in his grave. No? And a few other, I also got the chance of meeting that particular person. Again, I'm not condemning anyone here. All the best for everyone. But also, yeah, there was a few strange situations there. Being in his house and the pictures of, yeah, anyhow. Him and his wife and expressions, okay, I need a few extra wives and Gaura-Gadadhara in between, and a few like strange conversations. And again, not wanted to say everyone thinks like that or putting everyone in one box, but yeah. At the same time, again, saying there could be a possibility for that in some way, though I personally find lots of reasons to not be inclined in that direction, but I don't want to also be like absolutistic and say there's absolute no possibility in any single way, in any form. Or because also we're talking with Krishna Chandra, having known about certain other representatives of that line who were exhibiting some very serious, in the good sense of the word, symptoms of spiritual emotion, and you cannot just like, no, that's deviant. So again, I like to remain open to mystery in that sense, and even though I have my stance, who am I to bring full closure, this or that, right? But yeah, for me, the main thing, as we were talking these days, this idea of anukul seva, like render favorable service, understanding what's the need, what's favorable to Mahāprabhu. This is kind of the Mariyat of Prema. This word in Sanskrit, Mariyat, means kind of like, sometimes they use the word for Vaishnava etiquette, but Mariyat means kind of limit. Limit in the sense of there are certain boundaries that you do not cross in terms of what's favorable at any given moment. All this is favorable, but if you go beyond that, that becomes unfavorable. So Mariyat means that perimeter which demarks what's favorable at any given moment. So only acting for the happiness of the beloved, basically, right? So for us, and I think it's not only for us, it's very clear in the Shastra how this main reason for Gaura-līlā is tasting Radha Bhav. So we want to offer ourselves aligned with that necessity, so to say. And for me, it's very interesting, something that comes to mind regarding Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura, going back to him for a moment, because and those who are connected to the line of Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura one way or another, to the Bhaktivinoda Parivar, it's very interesting because what we find generally regarding Gaura-Gadadhara and Gadādhara Paṇḍita in particular, we find many Gaudiya lineages, basically nobody's talking about Gadādhara Paṇḍita. And I'm not criticizing, again, it's just what it is. And in some other lineages, like Gaur-Nagar, but they are talking a lot, but from this particular place, that we feel a little bit like, okay. So someone like Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura, we find a very balanced presentation of Gadādhara Paṇḍita. In a deep way, in a very interesting, esoteric way, clarifying the identity, worshipping Gadādhara Paṇḍita and Gaura-Gadadhara in a very unique way. So for me, it's very charming how Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura figures like Srila Siddhar Maharaj coming in that line, they speak about Gaura-Gadadhara in ways that are not to the extreme of what I will say Gaur-Nagar, but or to the extreme of we have nothing to say about that, no? or don't talk about that. So something very healthy and wholesome and balanced.
Maybe just after your question, a little.
Whose question? Amanda has a question. You have a question? Oh, you want to mention something in connection to her question? Yeah, of course.
Just like it's true. There is some showing of Aishwarya. Sometimes even Gaurāṅga, he takes the form of Nrisimhadev. Sometimes he sits on the altar of Śrī Ṭhākura. So it's like, it looks like, but the whole atmosphere of Navadvīpa stays like in this extreme simplicity. Like in Vrindavan, Krishna sometimes tells his friend also, I don't have to carry you around, I'm Bhagavan. And they're just clapping the hands, and can you show when Krishna is doing some very great miracle, becoming huge, and then he becomes small again. Have you seen? They just clap. Yeah, it was a good trick. So, but now you carry us. So, this is like in the atmosphere of great love, there can be a full display of Aishwarya, but the Madhurya is never ever disturbed, like in Govinda and Leela. He's just at the moment doing the extremest expression of Aishwarya, but they're not disturbed ever. So this is
They are
like
nourished on top of that in their,
exactly, in their
intimate
own Madhurya,
Mhm.
just coming. And I think this is the atmosphere in Navadvip, and that's why in Navadvip, Mahāprabhu is not even called Mahāprabhu. This is only the Puri name, the great Prabhu. How is it called in Navadvip? Oh, Nimai. This is a little Pandit. This is just the one who is, from whom all the Vedas are and all the knowledge is coming. Vedaisha sarvada aham-eva Veda. Now he's just a little Pandit arguing at the bank of Ganga. This is just actually an atmosphere of sweetness. And for all inhabitants of Navadvip, it's the really loving atmosphere is never disturbed. And Vishwanath Thakur goes a step further and he says, because like there is Śrī Rādhikas, there is Rishabhanu Nandini Radha, the Radha in Vrindavan, who is always together with Krishna. And then there is, when Krishna leaves Vrindavan, there is Radhika who is crying and crying. It's like another Radhika, because at the same time, they're also together on another level. And then there is, this is called Viyogini Radha. And then there's Samyogini Radha. This is Srimati Radhika who goes to Kurukshetra and meets Krishna. They're outside of Vrindavan. So, and when Krishna is on a travel to experience Radha Bhav, he wants to experience all three. And we can really see that in Navadvip, he is experiencing, in Puri, what is Gaurāṅga experiencing? Viyogini. So it's like he's in extreme separation in pain. But this is not the ultimate form of Srimati Radhika. In Navadvip, he's experiencing the mood of Vrishabhanu Nandini Radha. So that's why we consider Navadvip, even though sometimes some display of Aishwarya, but it's full Madhurya in its fullest expression. And when Mahāprabhu goes on the travel to South India, especially to Nidra Roy, he's in a mood of Samyogini Radha. Like he's experiencing all different kinds of Radhika. She had an urgent. You wanted to say something urgent?
Because but the associates of Mahāprabhu do worship him when he is on Shiva's altar, or when he knocks on the door and says, the one you're worshipping is in front of your door, and then so they do worship him.
For a short time, but it's not disturbing. When Srivas Thakur is in the night kirtans later, he's not, I have to be very careful not to touch his body and not to, maybe step on his feet. It's not, even such moments of Aishwarya actually enhance the Madhurya, but they're not disturbing the Naravat relationship, the very beautiful, loving relationship, because the love is so strong.
Or like Shachima, when Nimai had this rage of his rage and destroyed everything, he came back with this gold. And she was just worried, oh, Vokal, where did he get this from? Did he steal it somewhere? I have to ask everyone. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Just wait a bit.
No, I was thinking, since you touched upon Navadvip, I wanted to share a few words concluding about the notion of Nitya Navadvip. We have been talking briefly, but I think it's a good point to relate with. We're talking about Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura and his worship of Gaura-Gadadhara in Godrum. So maybe concluding with some thoughts of the adoration of Gaura-Gadadhara in Nitya Navadvip.
I didn't get in what way it referred to the peacock feather question, or was it another question that I didn't?
That like is the Aishwarya disturbing the mood of Gaurāṅga? This was her question. So, but this Aishwarya displayed, it's not disturbing. You know, even
Yeah, I guess I kind of like answered it in my head myself when I did ask about the peacock feather, like why is it a disturbance if you place a peacock feather on Mahaprabhu deity? And I was thinking that it depends on our mood of worship. You know, like what's the mood that we want to relate with? You know, if we want to see Gaurāṅga like experiencing, like Krishna experiencing Radha Bhav, then we wouldn't want to place a peacock feather.
Yeah, and that's why we don't do that. Yeah. Anyhow, Gaura-Gadadhara and Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura, he made this point, of course, as Shachandra was mentioning, in eternity, we're talking these days, there is a possibility of serving Radha Govinda and Braj as well as Gaura-Gadadhara. For those who have that affinity, of course, there are different affinities. That's the 7th retreat in 7 years we'll be having here. We're not racists. We're not racist in the context of rasa here. So it's not that Gaudiya Sampradaya only brings one mood. And I'm making that point because sometimes, unfortunately, there are many Gaudiya Vaishnava teachers even who will say everyone is a Manjari at the end of the day. And those who are not Manjaris may have made some aparat and they were demoted from the high good thing. I mean, I've heard that many times. Like, I don't know, they have asked, like, why Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj, the disciple of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, was clearly Priya Sakha, why he was not a Manjari like his guru? Well, because he was a Babaji and he was not willing to preach like his guru wanted, and that displeased his guru, and therefore he couldn't attain the real thing. And it's like, okay.
The real thing.
The real thing.
Means the rest is hunger.
Ouch.
Yeah, so again, that's what I like to call racism. No? To be racist in the context of rasa. Racist. So, Mohan.
But I heard even Narayan Maharaj, when he was asked this question, if someone makes apara in this Manjari Bhav, for example, he might get even in a lower rasa for some time. So
For me, the expression lower rasa is problematic to begin with.
yeah,
And I can understand what he may mean, but at the same time, we may need to address that statement in proper context. And of course, there is possibilities of aparad, but I wouldn't use that to say whomever is not in Manjari Bhav is an aparadi, basically. No, I'm not saying you nor Narayana is saying that, but sometimes people take it that way. No, like this is the only thing Mahaprabhu came to give. Well, actually, Chaitanya Charitamrita says Chari Bhav, speak about 4 particular moods, and even on top of that, you have Murari Gupta coming here. They're writing the main biography, the first one. And of course, whomever has a sthayi bhav, that's a sthayi bhav. No? So you are there. There's no demotion from there. And Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami made the point in one beautiful verse. He says, every devotee feels their relationship with Bhagavan is the best, and everyone is correct. That's a very non-sectarian statement. No, that's what the first book of the Gaudiya Sampradaya, which is the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, shows. Right, like Gopakumar traveling, finding so many devotees in different moods, and each one is fully satisfied in their own place, in their own mood. Of course, Gopakumar continues his journey, but it's not that he's taking all of them to Golok Vrindavan to be a Saka like he wants to be. He's appreciating everyone's bhav, but he's pursuing his own call at the same time. So that's it.
He is very happy first of all. It's wherever.
Yeah, also he finds satisfaction there and appreciates that, but eventually feels I'm called to something else. But he leaves that place with gratitude and appreciation, not like, oh, these rascals, degraded people, they might have done some offense because they are not inspired like me to go further, right? So, yeah. Anyhow. So in that context, Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura will establish Gaura-Gadadhara, going back to Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura in Godrum. And there's this conversation about Nitya Navadvīpa, and also some devotees will even consider that there may be the possibility of a Nitya Jagannath Puri, no? Where Mahāprabhu has some more Aishvarya-like Leelas, like you have in eternity, not only Vrindavan, but Golok, Mathura, and Golok, Dwarka. Which again, may not be in our menu and may not be our cup of tea, but that's clearly mentioned even in the Bhagavad, no? The eternal existence of Mathura and Dwarka.
Why Aishwarya?
Sorry?
You said Aishwarya like Leelas, but why do you say it's Aishwarya?
In Puri.
Like in Puri. Because he's a sannyasi and experiencing extreme, like, Radha Bhav. So how does that become Aishwarya?
Sannyasi is Aishwarya. Though I'm trying my best not to make it that way in my case. But still creates, Navadvip Leela is, that has been the parallel made by all our acharyas, like the Vrindavan Leela finds its parallel in Navadvip, and the Mathura Dwarka Leelas are more connected to Mahaprabhu in Puri, where he's more like a public figure, a sannyasi. He's experiencing Radha Bhav, and that's very intimate and profound. But still, the Navadvip Leelas are considered to be more at home like. Again, like it or not, and this is sannyasi telling it, the sannyas ashram carries some load of Aishvarya, so to say.
But also, like in Jagannath Puri, this extreme ecstasy, suddenly there is blood and sweat coming from all pores and foam from his body, and sometimes it enlarges, it becomes extremely big. So Aishwarya means not human-like behavior. I have not seen anyone like doing like this. So in Navadvip, it's
smooth.
It's the kīrtana, the rasa-līlā. It's a different atmosphere. So that's why Puri is considered more of this Aishwarya.
And in Puri also Mahaprabhu is kind of more, as the Leela advances more and more on his own with a few associates, with the reasons we have explained, but now it's more communal, if you will. As you were saying, every night, Rasa Kirtan with Sri Vasangan and so on. So, going back to Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura, he will try to make the point that, in general, at least, our preference will be to project the relationship with Mahaprabhu and Gaura-Gadadhara in Navadvip, and that's why he worshipped Gaura-Gadadhara in Godrum, which is Navadvip. No? And he will sing what, Madhavi? What will Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura sing worshipping Gaura-Gadadhara at Godrum? Kilikalam Bhava Gaura-Gadadhara Pakshacharam Shrinu Gaura-Gadadhara Charukatam Vajagodrumakanana Kunjavidum. Thank you. I'd like to rehearse being an orchestra director for 10 seconds in my life. So that's the last verse of Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura's Godrum Bhajan Upadesh, beautiful song. I think it's like 20 verses, and that's the last one, where he's saying again, Smara Gaura-Gadadhara. A few words about those lines that we were reciting every day as our Mangala chant. Smara Gaura-Gadadhara Keli Kalam. So remember you could say the playful play of Gaura-Gadadhara, or the artistic play of Gaura-Gadadhara, the artistic lila of Gaura-Gadadhara. Remember that, absorb your inner faculties in that. Bhava Gaura-Gadadhara Paksha Charam. To become one who treads the path of partiality toward Gaura-Gadadhara. Charam means like charite, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, like thread the path of Paksha, enter the path of sacred bias toward Gaura-Gadadhara, Bhava, become one of them. So it is invitation extended by Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura, invitation to fascination. And then Shrinu Gaura-Gadadhara Charukatam. Shrinu means listen, hear about the Charukatam, the charming, beautiful kata conversations about Gaura-Gadadhara, we could say, or also between Gaura-Gadadhara. That's also that's a little bit more. By hearing about the conversations about them, eventually you will find yourself listening to the conversation among them. You will become a participant into that lila. And therefore, Bhaja Godruma Kanana Kunjavidum, worshipping the moon of Godrum, Sri Satchidananda Gaura Hari, in this case, along with Śrī Gadādhara Paṇḍita. So what will be our seva in Nitya Navadvīpa? There are a few things we can say, of course. In terms of mood, we were saying the other day, for example, in Vaikuntha, Bhagavan is Atmaram, Narayana, pretty self-satisfied. So it's not that you will find Narayana. You don't even hear very much the word Narayan-līlā. The word Lila is not so much ascribed to Vishnu, Narayan. Lila indicates the necessity of love in one way. So there is love in Vaikuntha. We do not deny that. If you read the description of Sanatana Goswami given in Brihad Bhagavatamrita about Vaikuntha, it's beautiful in its own way. It's not that, because sometimes we hear Vaikuntha's awe and reverence, and we may think everyone is like freaking out of like, oh, there comes Narayan, I'm terrified, and everyone's like, distance from God. And there's nothing like that. There is love. Yeah. Bow down 100 times to the floor. There is love, there is servitude, there is sweetness and intimacy to some degree, but not to the degree that anyone loses sight of the fact that God is God. Right? So everyone keeps in mind, Narayan is God, and we love him. God is to be loved, God is to be worshipped, and so on and so forth. But generally the service comes out of the sense of loving duty, not so much about Narayan has an urgent necessity coming out of love. He's about to die in separation from Lakshmi or stuff. We don't hear that. Lakshmi is always there. So no near-death experience, so to say. Now, if you move from Vaikuntha to Vrindavan and to Gaura-līlā, which is an extension, Parishishta Lila Vrindavan, then Bhagavan is experiencing these prem-induced necessities to extreme degrees, losing sight of his divinity, everyone losing sight of the fact that Krishna is God. I don't want to say too loud, not to disturb the Dhambasis. And yeah, he experiencing desperate needs in all directions, him, servants, everyone, out of loving necessity, as we were saying. Yes, not out of emptiness, not out of an existential hole, but out of the fullness of Brahma. So in Gaura-līlā, this is the case as well. Our relationship with Mahāprabhu in Gaura-līlā, let's say that will be one of dāsya bhava. So that can create some, not conflict, but some doubt about, some will think, oh, but we've heard that Madhurya bhava is the highest thing. And in Nitya now there's dāsya bhava. So it seems like, again, becoming a little hierarchical in terms of rasas. We are being demoted a few floors. No, Madhurya, Vatsalya, Prasakhya, Dāsya, if you will. Again, not want to create any hierarchy, but somehow it's presented the sequence in that direction. So we could say this, the experience of Dāsya to Mahāprabhu is inferior to the experience of Madhurya in Vrindavan. And therefore, some consequence of that could be Gaurāṅga. Therefore, let's have Madhurya with Mahāprabhu. Someone may think like that. It's all about Madhurya, let's keep it Madhurya. But the point is that, of course, the Dāsya bhava to Mahāprabhu, it's a form of the type of Madhurya seva that is the main emphasis in Braja-līlā, which is a form of Dāsya. Right? The main emphasis in our tradition is Radha Dāsya. Somehow it's connected with Madhurya rasa, but it's a form of Dāsya. I mean, all rasas are a form of Dāsya. Let's not forget that. No, Dāsya is like foundational. Whether we speak about Sakhya bhava, Vatsalya bhava, Madhurya bhava, these, but Dāsya is at the foundation. So that in Vrindavan we have Radha Dāsya, sometimes called Bhavalas, Rati, Manjari bhava, you name it. And in Mahāprabhu's Gaura-līlā, you have Dāsya bhava to Mahāprabhu. Whether sometimes you say as a young Brahmin boy, can be a Brahmani girl, no problem. You can think that. Sometimes there's a little bit patriarchal ideas in between the projection there, but I think it doesn't need to be like. So my point is, the Dāsya to Mahāprabhu is a Dāsya towards Mahāprabhu experiencing Radha Bhava mainly. So it's a form of Radha Dāsya. The Dasyam to the Radha Bhava that Mahāprabhu. It's Radha Bhava Dasyam. You want to use that expression. But interesting thing in Gaura-līlā, as I briefly hinted the other day, is that in Gaura-līlā, Nitya now do we have the chance of engaging in double Radha Dasyam. Because you can serve Mahāprabhu experiencing Radha Bhava Dasyam, and you can offer service to Gadādhara Paṇḍita, who is Radha. So you can offer Radha Dasyam to Radha's Gadādhara, and you can offer Radha Dasyam in the form of Radha Bhava Dasyam to whatever Mahāprabhu is experiencing in his heart. So the adoration of Gaura-Gadadhara Nitya Navadvīpa offering this double dose of Madhurya rasa, which is a form of Dāsya. Hope you follow the case. So all this not to feel, oh no, Nitya Navadvīpa, it's about Dāsya. No, it's about double Madhurya rasa. Which is about Dāsya, if properly understood.
It's like two magnifying glasses.
Without headache. Yeah. So that's the secret in one sense of, again, of Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura and the invitation he's extending us by Smara Gaura-Gadadhara. The ultimate bhajan is serving Gaura-Gadadhara in their mutual need. No, that includes this double dose of Madhurya rasa. The ultimate bhajan, again, that's why Srila Maharaj said, Gaura-Gadadhara worship is the private bhajan chamber of Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura. This is the ultimate secret Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura has to tell us. Raja Vidya, Raja Guhyam. This highest knowledge being conveyed as a deepest secret. Because the more specific manifestation of the divine becomes, also the more specific is the need for service to that. So Gaura-līlā is something very specific. As Braja-līlā is also ultra specific, not so generic as if we may find in other conceptions of the Godhead, more general idea of God, a more general idea of the realm, and a more general idea of how I'm supposed to serve. And when things become more specific, the service necessity becomes more specific, and our attitude requires more ekatva, more emphasis, more focus, more attention, more presence. So that's our eternal prospect in connection to serving Śrī Gaurāṅga. And of course, again, we just touched a few a few sections. We didn't have the time to go through everything. There are many songs about Gadādhara Paṇḍita. We'll be maybe singing one at the end today. But before that, I'd like to give a little glimpse of Nitya Navadvīpa, the dynamics of the eternal day of Mahāprabhu and Gaura-Gadadhara, the Śrī of Nitya Navadvīpa that different sadhus have composed. And in the future, I have a book project in mind that was supposed to be the second book, but a few things happened in my life after my first book. So anyhow, the other books came in the way of that, in between that, not in the way. But still, those books are waiting. One on Mahāprabhu and the depths of Gaura-līlā, one about Gadādhara Paṇḍita, and one about Nitya Navadvīpa. So part of the Nitya Navadvīpa will be describing the Śrī. So I'd like to share with you some trailer of that, but Krishna will pick which one of the 8 periods of the day.
Niśānta-līlā.
Niśānta-līlā. But Anuradha is raising her hand.
Something just said before starting with the Nitya Navadvīpa.
Mm-hmm.
Just a little thing. You said this is our prospect or our eternal prospect for how to serve there.
Mm-hmm.
What does it mean exactly? How is it applicable now? Or what is it anything to practice now? And this is the first part of the question. The other is, do you practice something like that connected with japa practice?
I practice something like what?
You call prospects.
Mm-hmm,
You
mm-hmm.
were speaking about the service and the swarup
Mm.
in
Mm.
service,
Mm.
and helping them in their mutual need. And sometimes we heard also Lila Katha about, for example, a little servant of Mahāprabhu who is massaging his head, sitting at the bank of the Ganga, and then they kind of dive into Braj-Lila. Is it something like that what you meant? Because this came up to me, and what does it mean exactly? Do I meditate now on this, or do you?
Well, the personal part, I will keep it private. But in general, what I would like to say, and it's part of also how I do it, and it may sound a little simple, but for me, it's also whole thing about Nitya Navadvīpa and Gaura-līlā is that in one sense we are already participating in Gaura-līlā here and now. So I don't like to just, when I use the word prospect, don't want to make Gaura-līlā like just a future thing waiting for us somewhere else, but something we start to participate in the here and now. And that's also one of the specialities of Gaura-līlā is that, I mean, it's the Lila we join in here on earth, so to say, through which again we attain Krishna-lila and through which we attain Gaura-līlā. But Gaura-līlā is a sadhak lila. No, everyone is a sadhak, so in that sense it's very relatable. Everyone is a practitioner of bhakti. So I like to, as much as I can, to appreciate where I am now as Gaura-līlā, right? Which still takes its effort and inner work to try to really, I'm not saying that's all, but I think that's for me very important foundational step to not just see Gaura-līlā as something waiting for us, but extending itself to us and offering us the chance to be part of it, and sharing like this and all this is, in one sense, as I like to tell about this, I like to be doing this forever. Like this sharing, I see myself in eternity too. So in that sense, we're having a glimpse of Nitya Navadvīpa. That for me is a very interesting, like sporty Like if you feel like in kīrtana or in sharing or whatever, oh, I could be doing this forever. That means you are touching eternity in that moment. We are being offered a glimpse into what we would like. So we are already doing what we want to do for eternity. So in that sense, Gaura-līlā is already there. And of course, there are other details that may be revealed naturally, gradually with practice and absorption. And that could be some personal practice that one may adopt, whatever works better for anyone. I don't like kind of prescribe one official method universally applicable to everyone. But yeah, I know devotees who may recite certain verses or engage in some type of meditation, and even Astakali-Lila, Smaran could be a form in connection to Gaura-līlā. That's what I can say so far today. So we'll read a few words from the Niśānta-līlā that Krishna Chandra Prabhu asked us. Maybe that's part of the extended reply to Anuradha's question. I don't know if I will read the whole thing because it may get too long. Do we have time? Still eternity on our side?
Yes.
Okay, we'll try. So this is the Niśānta-līlā, which means 3:36 in the morning, starting. It's the beginning of the day till 6 a.m. So that's the beginning of the day in Nitya Navadvīpa. The pre-dawn, basically. Lila. Niśānta, which means the end of the night.
It's like the Mangalarati meditation.
Yeah, exactly. So it's okay. Yeah. Fasten your seatbelt. Another full and ardent night of rasa kirtan has reached its end, and our golden Prabhu now lies in divine exhaustion within the flower garden of Pandit Srivas. There, in an exquisite pavilion served by the 6 seasons and adorned with banners, flags, and golden jewels, Sri Vishvambar reclines and rests deeply. His bed is ornamented according to the season. Above it hovers a bewitching canopy, accompanied by auspicious symbols, swastikas, lotuses, and other marks of fortune. In every direction, each of Gaur Krishna's eternal companions dwells in a beautiful, fragrant cottage, forming an endless ring of love around him. At the feet of our Gurudevs and in our perfected Sadhaka Deha, we will rise at precisely 3:36 a.m. without the need of cell phone and clock alarm. And without being tired.
For eternity.
Yeah. So we are still giving you a chance to get down off the ship if this is too early for you in eternity. I'm just 3:36 a.m., the dawn of pre-dawn, the hush of Niśānta-līlā. A soft Malayan breeze stirs the petals of Malati, Malika, and other nocturnal blossoms, barely brushing them like the breath of a whisper. Gently swaying under the last moonbeams, the flowers begin to open, releasing their fragrance in all directions. Drawn by this sweetness, the bumblebees awaken. Their soft humming arouses the birds, including the cuckoo, whose 5th note call reverberates through Nadia, and especially into the ears of Sriman Gaur Sundar. Still drenched in Radha Bhav and bathed in his own tears, Nimai has spent the entire night immersed in dreams of Radha Madhava's Niśānta-līlā, and its tender culmination in Vrindavan's most romantic 5th note, Srimati Radhika lying beside her Shyam Sundar in the Nikunja Mandir. He lies exactly as Radha does in Braj at this very moment, head to the east, face to the north, resting his cheek on his right lotus hand. Such beauty cannot be captured by words, and so this vision has been described by the sages as anirvachaniya, indescribable. They call this slumbering vision Sayana Shobha Darshana, and it is said that no one can behold such splendor and survive at the same time. It's too much of a darshan. As he begins to regain external awareness, Śrī Gaurāṅga inhales deeply and suddenly roars. One meaning for Hari means lion, right? So Gaurāṅga means the golden lion. Hearing this, all the associates are summoned into action. We will quickly arise from our rest and gently awaken our Gurudevas, massaging their tender feet and washing their luminous hands, face, and mouth. After serving each member of the Guru Varga, we will gather the sacred items for our Niśānta-līlā. A golden goblet for washing the Lord's face, flowers for garlands, sandal paste for tilak, ghee wicks, camphor lamps, incense, and more. Once the mridangas are decorated and the conch polished, we will quietly make our way to Gaurahari's resting chamber, peering in from the window to behold his most enchanting morning form. Still half dreaming in Braja's pre-dawn lila, Sachi's son rests with half-opened eyes, unsure of his identity and location in these early waking hours. While murmuring soft, melodious words, waves of sattvic bhav rise and fall like moon-pulled tides. This time, the parrot, Vichakshana, under Swarup Damodar's instruction, gently whispers, "Prabhu, it's time to return to your mother's home." Gaura then stretches his golden form, sits up and yawns, his eyes red with tears, his limbs fragrant with the perfume of transcendence. Still weeping from memories of Radha and Krishna's romantic weariness in the Nikunj, he breathes heavily, caught between two worlds. Shall I continue? Yes. Swarup Damodar now begins a Braja-līlā Kirtan, describing how Radha and Shyam awaken in the forest bower. These sacred songs flood Gaura's heart with remembrance and guide his full return to external awareness. Absorbed in Radha Bhav, Sachinandan sways as his intimate companions naturally enter their own Braja Swarups, offering loving support in perfect harmony to what he's experiencing at the moment. Then, recalling the Mangala Arti in Braja's hidden groves, Gaura Simha roars again, this time with Bhava Shanti, or ecstatic appeasement. And all present return to external consciousness. They bow to him and he embraces them, heart to heart. A little later, Sriman Gaurāṅga sits up on the balcony at Srivas Pandit's home. So he's still at Srivas Pandit's home. It's all the night went there for the rasas kīrtana. Under Sri Guru's guidance, we will bring water to wash Sachisuta's mouth and face, offer sandalwood paste and a fresh garland, and finally present him with a bejeweled mirror to contemplate his newly dressed form. Seeing his own reflection, Gaura again drowns in Radhika's Mahabhav. Perceiving the depth of his internal mood, Swarup Damodar then invokes the corresponding Braja Bhav and Braja-līlā through sacred song, where Praneshwari Radha must now part from her Praneshwar and somehow manage to return home with the help and support of her confidants. Because home is where she is with Krishna, not where she's supposed to return. As the song ends, Gaur slowly regains partial external awareness and walks towards Sachi's abode, surrounded by his closest companions. Still steeped in Radha's mood, he and his associates walk in the way Radha and her confidants do, glancing around nervously, entering their homes discreetly, careful not to be seen. Meanwhile, we will enter Vishvambara's room with our Gurudevas and other Sevakas. As the first rays of the sun touch the sky, we will serve Gaura Rai as he lies down again, decorating his bed with fresh petals and gently massaging his lotus feet until he rests. Only then will we turn to serve the Mahaprabhu's eternal associates and our Guru Varga, before quietly returning to our own place and taking rest. The last paragraph says, the deeper and more sincere our longing to serve Mahaprabhu, the more our call will reach and affect his heart of hearts. And when the moment comes, there will be nothing else left to attain. By receiving even a glimpse of this Niśānta-līlā, everything outside its charm, even the breath spent living in forgetfulness, feels like the greatest loss. Jai Prananath Gaur Hari Ki Jai. Śrī Gaura-Gadhara Ki Jai. So, a few words about Niśānta-līlā. So we are, with this, putting to rest our Gadādhara Saptaha, Gaura-Gadadhara Saptaha, officially putting to rest. No? Like they were put to rest in the Niśānta-līlā. Okay, now some massage during the resting. Seva continues. It's never over. But deep gratitude to all of you for coming here, being present. Deep gratitude, Krishna Chandra, all the Ananda Dhambasis for offering the vessel for this to happen, the stage, the scenario, the beautiful land, the beautiful heart for this sharing to happen. And since the Saptaha is never over, I'd like to conclude with a little homework that we will turn it into an offering today's evening for those of you who would like, which basically is spending some time during the day reflecting, okay, how this Gaura-Gadadhara Saptaha touched my heart, in which place I was, what was the thing that touched me the most, how it's speaking to me in my life at this stage of my journey, how do I feel invited to give myself to this, whatever, no? Reflecting, taking some time if you need to think, to write about it. And today in the evening, we thought we could do some last meeting, last quote unquote, where each one of you will be invited to bring some offering for Gaura-Gadadhara in the form of maybe during the day of reflection you would like to write a poem about Gaura-Gadadhara, about something that touched you. You may like to offer a song, to compose a song, to do a drawing, a painting, to make a dance offering.
An own prayer.
And your own prayer, of course, yeah. To share some words. Optional. I mean, what's not optional is spend some time reflecting on this. Sorry, you have no free will on this one. But in the evening, it's optional, those of you who would like to present something to be shared with the circle, but I think it's a beautiful way of making full circle to the sharing on each one of us, or those who will feel inspired to do it. And if not, whatever offering you did, you're offering in your heart of hearts to Sri Gaura-Gadadhara.
So we're not supposed to read what we reflected during the day. Not about that. I know misunderstood. You want us to reflect on like what touches us the most during this retreat?
I mean, spending some time during the day reflecting on what.
But we're not supposed to then share that in the evening.
The idea is then you can make something with that. If you want, you can write a poem, you can write some prose. It doesn't need to be a poem. It can be prose, it can be a words, it can be a song, it can be drawing, it can be pottery, it can be. We don't have time. Yeah. She has been offering herself from day one. Yeah, whatever. I don't want to limit the shape of the offering, right? And it can be brought in the evening, the offering, and shared in the circle, or if you prefer to do the offering more personally, privately, that's totally fine as well. But that will be our quote-unquote last gathering today in the evening to conclude. It's like a footnote to the Gadādhara Saptaha, the excuse to continue actually in the Saptaha. forever and ever. So, and we can conclude now with one song that we haven't sung it yet, that I told you the other day. Song from Shivananda Sen, offered to Gadādhara Paṇḍita, which you will find, for those who have this songbook, is in page 54. Jai Jai Gadādhara Paṇḍita Gosai. Śrī Gaurā-Gadadhara ki Jai. Gaur Premanandi.